I never thought I'd agree to pretend to be someone's boyfriend, let alone for a guy the first barely knew. But there I was, sitting on a too-soft couch in a dimly lit coffee shop, staring at Jamie like my life depended on it. And honestly, it kinda did. Not in the usual romantic way, but in that weird, messy way where your heart skips because you're suddenly not sure what's real anymore. So yeah, rewind a bit. I'm Alex, 27, working in a dead-end office job that pays the bills but doesn't exactly light my soul on fire. I'm the kind of guy who's used to flying under the radar, never too loud, always a little cautious about who I trust. And Jamie? Well, Jamie's the exact opposite. Outgoing, charming, the kind of person people notice when they walk into a room. We used to be just acquaintances, if that, until last week when he slid into my life with this wild proposition. Can you be my fake boyfriend? It sounds like one of those ridiculous rom-com setups, I know. But Jamie's reasons made sense, in a weird, desperate way. He's got this family reunion coming up, and his relatives are notorious for hassling him about why he's single. Trouble is, he's not exactly out to them, and the last thing he wants is to deal with the awkward questions and pity looks. So he asked me, of all people, to play the part. Just for a weekend. At first, I thought he was joking. I mean, who even asks a stranger to fake date them? But there was something in his eyes, this mix of nerves and hope, that made me pause. Plus, the way he casually touched my hand when he said it, maybe a little too casual for just acquaintances, made my heart do this stupid little flip I wasn't prepared for. That's how I found myself here now, trying to figure out if I was about to make the biggest mistake or stumble into something I never knew I wanted. We'd agreed to meet early yesterday to rehearse the us thing, how we'd hold hands, what stories to tell about how we met, even how to deal with the inevitable questions. Jamie was surprisingly good at this pretend relationship stuff. He laughed when I tripped over the script he wrote on his phone and said, "Relax, Alex, just be yourself. Well, your boyfriend's self." And honestly, being around him felt easy, like I didn't have to hide as much. But the best part? I realized I was starting to look forward to spending time with him, which was dangerous, because this was supposed to be fake. Last night, after a bunch of practice fake dates, coffee, a walk in the park, even a dinner where we had to pretend I'd just met his friends, I was exhausted. I was also more aware of Jamie's presence than I'd ever been. His laugh was louder when he was with me, his smile softer. And when I caught him looking at me for a beat too long, I wasn't sure if it was part of the act or something real. Then came today. We were sitting on a bench outside a little bookstore, the kind with those tiny fairy lights strung across the windows. It was chilly, the kind of cold that makes you want to hold on to someone just to stay warm. Jamie turned toward me, all serious for once, and said, "Alex, there's something I need to tell you." My heart jumped and I braced myself for a confession about how much this charade meant to him or something about the family drama. Instead, he leaned in and kissed me. No warning, no fake dating script, just a real kiss. And suddenly, everything I thought this was supposed to be flipped upside down. For a second, I just froze, like that moment when you're standing at the edge of a pool and you haven't quite decided if you're going to jump in or back away. Jamie's eyes were glued to mine, searching, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. And honestly, my brain was a mess. Heart pounding, cheeks burning, everything screaming that this was not part of the fake boyfriend plan. Then he pulled back a little, just enough to whisper, "Sorry, I couldn't wait." I laughed nervously, trying to play it cool, but inside I was spinning. "Wait for what?" I asked, my voice way shakier than I intended. He shrugged, that signature Jamie grin creeping back like he was hiding a secret. For the script to say I could. I shook my head, half amused, half dazzled. "You're impossible." He reached over and tangled our fingers together, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Maybe. But you're not bad at this boyfriend thing." I looked down at our hands, the warmth from his skin crawling up my arm. "I don't even know if this is what I want." Jamie tightened his grip. "Maybe that's the point. Maybe we don't know yet." We sat there for a while after that. No more lines, no more pretending. Just two guys on a bench, hands intertwined, the world around us fading into a blur of chilly air and soft evening light. When I finally spoke, I said, "You know this could get messy, right? If we do this weekend thing and feelings get involved." Jamie gave me that look, half teasing, half serious. Messy can be good sometimes. It felt like a dare, a challenge, and maybe a promise. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The weekend flew by in the most unexpected way. We showed up at his family reunion together, hand in hand like we'd been doing it forever. His relatives gave us the usual squinty-eyed looks at first, the ones that silently measure your worth, but then they softened when Jamie introduced me as his boyfriend. I caught pieces of conversations, like his aunt whispering to his mom, "He looks happy," or his cousin nudging Jamie and giving me an approving nod. But the best part? Jamie. He was different around his family with me there, more relaxed, more himself. And that little us bubble we'd built felt surprisingly real, even if it was supposed to be fake. At one point, Jamie pulled me aside into the backyard, the sun setting and painting everything gold. "Thanks for doing this," he said, eyes serious. "I know it's weird." I smiled, feeling my chest tighten. "Honestly, I'm glad I did. More than I thought I would be." He grinned and leaned in again, this time slower, like he was savoring the moment. "You're full of surprises, Alex." I laughed, the nerves melting away. "You have no idea." Asterix, asterix, asterix. By Sunday night, we were sitting on Jamie's couch, exhausted but grinning like idiots. We'd survived the reunion, the fake stories, the awkward questions. And somewhere in between, I felt like we'd crossed some invisible line. Jamie turned to me and said, "So, what now?" I blinked, not sure how to answer. "I guess we figure it out?" He nodded and pulled me closer. "Yeah, figure it out together." And just like that, the pretend boyfriend thing didn't feel so pretend anymore. I don't know where this is going. Hell, I don't even know if it's the start of something real or just a beautiful weekend that'll fade into memory. But sitting here with Jamie, his hand warm in mine, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to take the leap. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds, painting stripes across Jamie's living room. I woke up tangled in his blankets and, somehow, still wrapped up in the feeling that this was different. Not just a fling or a weekend act, but something that might actually stick. Jamie was already up, sitting at his tiny kitchen table with a cup of coffee and that same easy grin I'd come to know over the past couple of days. "Morning, sleepyhead," he said, voice rough from sleep. I stretched and yawned, feeling the pleasant ache of a night spent close to someone. "Morning," I replied, still a little unsure about how to navigate this new us thing we were stepping into. He took a slow sip of his coffee and then looked at me like he'd been thinking for a while. "So do you want to grab breakfast? Like, for real? Not fake boyfriend breakfast, but just us breakfast?" I hesitated for a beat, my mind racing with what-ifs. But then I realized I wanted that. I wanted more mornings like this, with him. "Yeah," I said, pushing myself up. "I'd like that." We ended up at a small diner a few blocks away, the kind of place where the neon sign buzzes softly and the waitresses know your order before you sit down. Sitting across from Jamie, I caught myself just watching him, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, how his fingers danced nervously on the table when he talked about his family, the way his laugh was loud and genuine. It hit me that this was the first time I'd felt this comfortable with someone in a long time. So, Jamie started, shoveling a bite of pancakes into his mouth. "What happens now? Do we tell your friends? Or keep this under wraps a little longer?" I considered it. My friends were great, but I wasn't sure how ready I was for a new relationship label, especially one that had started so unexpectedly. Plus, Jamie's situation with his family was complicated, and I didn't want to push too hard. "Let's take it slow," I said. "No pressure. Just see where it goes." Jamie nodded, relief flashing across his face. "Good. Because honestly, I don't want to mess this up. Neither did I, asterisk. The days that followed were a strange mix of ordinary and electric. We went on actual dates, movies, walks, grabbing pizza after midnight. Sometimes it still felt surreal, like we were acting out a script written by someone else. But more and more, the lines blurred. The jokes became inside jokes, the touches lingered longer, and the smiles became something I couldn't fake. One afternoon, Jamie invited me to his apartment for dinner. It was a small space, cluttered with books and old concert posters, but it had this cozy vibe that felt like home. We cooked together, which was chaotic because neither of us was exactly Gordon Ramsay, but the kitchen was filled with laughter and playful teasing. After dinner, we settled on his couch, the room dim except for the flicker of a movie playing. I was half listening when Jamie suddenly looked at me, eyes serious again. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Shoot," I replied, heart skipping. "Are you scared? Of this? Of me? Of us?" I wasn't sure what to say. The truth was, yeah, I was scared. Scared of opening up, of getting hurt, of everything changing. But there was also this pull I couldn't deny. "I'm scared," I admitted. "But maybe that means it's worth it." Jamie smiled like I'd just given him the best answer. "Me too." We leaned in slowly, the air thick with something tender and new. This time, the kiss wasn't a surprise or a dare. It was an invitation, a promise, asterisk, asterisk. A couple weeks later, I found myself standing outside Jamie's place, nervously clutching a small box. Inside was a necklace I'd bought on a whim, something simple but meaningful. A little reminder of how far we'd come in such a short time. Jamie opened the door, his face lighting up when he saw me. "What's all this?" he asked, stepping aside to let me in. I took a deep breath. "I know we said we'd take things slow, but I wanted you to have this, for when you need to remember that someone's got your back." He looked at the necklace, then back at me, his eyes glistening. "Alex," I shrugged, feeling suddenly awkward but honest. "No big deal, just me." Jamie closed the distance between us, hands gentle on my face. "You're not no big deal. You're everything." And in that moment, with the world outside falling away, I realized that what started as a fake boyfriend thing had turned into something real, messy, and incredible. All at once. I'm still figuring it out, still learning what this means. But for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid to try. Because sometimes, the best things come from the most unexpected places, even a fake boyfriend request that turned into a real kiss. After that night with the necklace, things didn't magically become this perfect fairy tale. But they did get real. We started talking about the stuff people in relationships usually talk about. Future plans, fears, what we wanted out of life. It was messy, sometimes awkward, but that felt right, like we were peeling back layers instead of just pretending. One afternoon, Jamie invited me over after work. He'd been a little quieter than usual during the week, and I could tell something was on his mind. When I got to his place, the usual warmth was there, but with an edge of tension. "Hey," I said, dropping my bag by the door. Jamie looked up from the couch, rubbing the back of his neck. "Hey, can we talk?" "Of course," I nodded. "Yeah, what's up?" He took a deep breath, then sat forward like he was about to confess something huge. "It's my parents. They want to meet you." I froze, heart doing that stupid flip-flop again. Meeting his parents wasn't part of the plan, at least not yet. Especially since Jamie hadn't fully come out to them before. I had this mix of excitement and panic swirling inside me. Excitement because that meant he was serious. Like really serious. And panic because, well, what if they didn't accept me? Or worse, what if this broke him? "Okay," I said carefully. "When?" "Next weekend," he said, voice steady but eyes searching. They invited us to dinner. The rest of the day, my mind raced through every possible scenario. Jamie's parents meeting me meant stepping into a whole new level of real. No scripts, no pretending, just me, him, and whatever came next. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The night of the dinner, I showed up early, too early actually, with a bottle of wine and a nervous smile plastered on my face. Jamie greeted me at the door, looking impossibly handsome in a simple shirt and jeans. His eyes flickered between excitement and nerves. "Ready? For better or worse," I said, trying to steady my voice. Inside, his parents were waiting in the cozy dining room, warm lighting and the smell of roasted chicken filling the air. They stood when Jamie and I walked in, and there was this awkward moment where I realized just how much this night mattered to all of us. Jamie's mom smiled gently. "Alex, it's so nice to finally meet you." "Likewise," I said, shaking her hand. His dad nodded with what I hoped was approval. Dinner started with the usual small talk, but as the night went on, the conversation grew deeper. Jamie's parents asked about my job, my family, and how we'd met. When Jamie jumped in with the fake boyfriend story, I braced myself, but they just laughed. Apparently, they had a pretty good sense of humor. "Sounds like you two found something real in a hilarious way," his dad said, raising his glass. "That's what counts." By dessert, the tension had melted into something warm and genuine. Jamie squeezed my hand under the table, and I squeezed back, feeling like I belonged. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. After the dinner, Jamie and I walked back to his place under the stars, the city quiet around us. I kept replaying the night in my head, the way his parents looked at me, the moments where Jamie's eyes met mine with that new kind of trust. "I think that went better than I expected," Jamie said, slipping his hand into mine. "Yeah," I agreed, squeezing his fingers. "You were amazing. So were your parents," he chuckled. "I'm just glad they liked you. I was worried this would be too soon." I shook my head. Sometimes soon is better than never. We stopped by a quiet park bench, sitting side by side. Jamie leaned his head on my shoulder, and I rested mine against his. "Alex," he whispered, "thank you for being patient with me. With all of this," I smiled, feeling the swell of something like pride and love. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be." He kissed the top of my head, soft and sure. "Me neither." Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That night, lying in bed next to Jamie, I finally let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real and lasting. Not just a fake boyfriend story gone right, but a connection that had grown into something neither of us expected but both needed. And honestly, I'm more excited than scared about what comes next. Because some things, even the unexpected ones, are worth taking the leap for. The weeks after meeting Jamie's parents turned out to be some of the most unexpectedly sweet in my life. We slipped into a rhythm that felt, for once, like it wasn't some fragile act we had to keep up. We texted each other ridiculous memes at odd hours, shared playlists that made the other laugh or think, and found ourselves stealing small moments during the day just to check in. It was easy, like the kind of thing you always wanted but never thought would happen to you. One Thursday evening, Jamie showed up at my door holding 2 tickets in his hand and that same mischievous grin I'd come to adore. "Got us something," he said, stepping inside. I raised an eyebrow. "What's the occasion?" He shrugged, dropping the tickets on my kitchen counter. "No occasion. Just thought we should celebrate the fact that I'm basically your boyfriend now." I laughed, shaking my head, and grabbed the tickets. "So what? We're going to a concert? A play? A wrestling match?" His grin widened. "Better. A drag show downtown. You've never been, and I figured it's time." I blinked. "Drag show?" Jamie nodded enthusiastically. "Trust me. It's wild, fun, and probably the most ridiculous night out we'll have. Plus, it's my scene." I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was game. After all, Jamie had been pulling me into his world little by little, and I wanted to keep up. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. That Saturday, we made our way to the club, a neon-lit dive packed with a crowd that was lively, loud, and unapologetically themselves. Jamie was in his element, greeting people, laughing with friends, and holding my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. I tried to match his energy as much as I could, but mostly I was just soaking it all in. The show started with a bang, glitter, outrageous costumes, and performers who owned the stage like it was theirs. Jamie leaned over and whispered, "See, told you it was wild." I grinned, feeling more alive than I had in a long time. The night became a blur of laughter, cheers, and stolen kisses under the flashing lights. Jamie and I danced like no one was watching, and for once, maybe no one really was. Later, as the crowd thinned, Jamie pulled me close. "Thanks for coming with me," he said softly. "Thanks for dragging me out." I shot back, smiling. He laughed, but then his expression turned serious, eyes searching mine. "Alex, I want you to know something. What started as a fake thing, it's real for me. I don't want to just figure it out anymore. I want this. Us. No pretending." My heart lurched. "I want that too." We kissed then. Slow. Sure, like we were sealing a promise we'd both been afraid to say out loud. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. But of course, life doesn't just hand you certainty. A couple of days later, Jamie got a call that shook us both. His job was relocating him to another city, several hours away. It wasn't a small thing. It was the kind of thing that could unravel everything we'd built. We spent that evening pacing around his apartment, trying to make sense of it. "What do we do?" I asked, swallowing the lump in my throat. Jamie ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "I don't want to lose this." "Don't want to lose you." "Neither do I," said, heart thudding. "But how do we make it work? Long distance?" He looked at me, eyes full of uncertainty. "I don't know if I can do that. It's different when it's not just fake boyfriend anymore." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, it is." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the situation pressing down like the night outside. Then Jamie reached for my hand, squeezing it. "Maybe we don't have all the answers now, but I'm willing to try if you are." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, me too." Asterisk, asterisk. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of packing, planning, and saying goodbyes. Jamie stayed at my place as much as he could, and every moment felt bittersweet. We talked late into the night about everything, from silly inside jokes to the terrifying what-ifs. On his last night in town, we went back to that little park bench where we'd first kissed for real. The city lights glittered around us, but the world felt quiet, like it was holding its breath. Jamie turned to me, eyes shining in the darkness. "Promise me something? Anything. Promise that no matter what happens, we won't let this end just because distance gets in the way." I pulled him close, feeling the familiar warmth of his body against mine. "I promise." He kissed me then, soft, desperate, like we were trying to hold on to something fragile. As I watched him leave the next morning, suitcase in hand, I felt the sting of loss, but also this stubborn spark of hope. Because if a fake boyfriend kiss could lead to this, maybe there was nothing we couldn't face together. I don't know what the future holds, but right now, I'm holding on to that promise, and to Jamie, the best way I know how. The first week after Jamie left felt like I was walking through a fog. His apartment was suddenly empty. The space that used to hold his laughter and the scent of his cologne was just quiet. I tried to keep busy, work, friends, binge-watching stupid shows, but every little thing set off a chain reaction of thoughts about him. The way his smile made my chest flutter, the nights we spent tangled up on that couch, the silly dance moves he busted out at the drag show. It all felt so far away, like a dream I was desperately trying to hold on to. We talked every day, of course. Texts, calls, video chats, but it wasn't the same as having him there. I noticed the little cracks too, calls that got shorter, messages left on read a little too long. I wanted to believe it was just the adjustment, that we were both figuring out how to be us across the miles. But there was this gnawing worry in the back of my mind that we were slowly drifting apart. One night, about 10 days in, I was scrolling through my phone when a message popped up from Jamie. It was a picture of a sunset, the kind of golden soft light that always made him feel like things were going to be okay. Underneath, he'd written, "Wish you were here." I stared at that message longer than I cared to admit before typing back, "Me too." That simple exchange was a balm to the ache I'd been carrying. It reminded me that even if we were apart, we were still trying. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. But then came the week when things got hard. Jamie called me late one night, his voice strained and quiet. "Alex, I messed up." My heart dropped. "What happened?" He hesitated. "I missed a really important meeting today." I was supposed to pitch a project, and I totally blanked. I think they're not so sure about me anymore. I could hear the frustration and fear in his voice, and it hit me how much pressure he was under. Hey, everyone messes up. It doesn't mean you're any less capable. He sighed. Yeah, but it's not just work. I feel like I'm failing at this too. Us. I don't want to lose you. I swallowed the lump in my throat. You're not failing. We just need to be honest about how we're feeling, even when it's hard. There was a long pause. Then he said, I miss you. Miss you too, I whispered, imagining him sitting alone in his apartment, feeling the same way I did. We stayed on the phone for a while after that, talking about everything and nothing. It was one of those moments that reminded me why this was worth fighting for. Asterisk. A few days later, I surprised Jamie with a weekend trip. I booked a flight, packed a bag, and showed up at his doorstep with a grin and a ridiculous bouquet of flowers. He looked stunned. What are you doing here? Coming to remind you that we're in this together, no matter the distance, I said, stepping inside. That weekend was a beautiful blur of city walks, late-night talks, and stolen kisses. Being with him again, even for just a few days, felt like coming home. We found a little coffee shop tucked away from the busier streets, where the barista knew our names by the second day. We talked about everything, from the future, fears, to the dumb jokes that somehow made us laugh till our sides hurt. On our last night, Jamie turned to me, eyes shining with something I can't quite put into words. Thank you for this, for showing up, for believing in us. I brushed my fingers through his hair, heart full. There's no one else I'd rather fight for. Asterisk. Back home, after Jamie left again, we both knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Long-distance relationships aren't for the faint of heart. But every challenge felt a little less daunting knowing we had each other. We made plans to visit as often as possible, talked about eventually living in the same city again, and promised to keep being honest, even when it hurt. One evening, months later, I was lying in bed when Jamie video called me. His face lit up the screen, tired but smiling. Guess what? I sat up grinning. What? I got the promotion. And it means I can transfer back here, so maybe you won't have to keep flying out to see me anymore. My heart soared. Are you serious? He nodded, eyes sparkling. Yeah, I want to be closer. To us. I couldn't stop the smile that spread across my face. Me too. We talked late into the night, planning, dreaming, and for the first time in a long time, imagining a future where the harsh lines of distance blurred into something beautiful and real. Asterisk. Looking back, it's crazy to think how this all started, with Jamie asking me to be his fake boyfriend. What began as a simple act to dodge awkward family questions turned into the most unexpected, wonderful thing I've ever been part of. I don't know where this journey will take us next, but one thing's for sure, I'm ready to find out, with Jamie by my side. Because sometimes, the best love stories come from the places you never expected. And I'm thankful every day that this one found me. It wasn't a grand gesture or some perfectly scripted moment that made me realize we'd made it through, made it real. It was something quieter, softer. One chilly Sunday morning, I woke up to a message from Jamie. I'm moving back next month. I stared at those words for a long time, my heart doing that familiar flip-flop. All the months of late-night calls, airport goodbyes, and that constant ache of distance suddenly felt like they had a purpose. When he finally arrived, suitcase in hand, and stepped into my apartment, it was like the world shifted into place. We didn't need fireworks or big declarations. Instead, there was laughter over burnt toast, shared playlists filling the background, and those little perfect moments where we just existed. Together. One evening, we sat on my balcony, wrapped in blankets against the cool air, watching the city lights flicker below. Jamie reached for my hand, his fingers warm and steady. Remember that fake boyfriend thing? He asked with a grin. I chuckled. How could I forget? He sighed, eyes soft. I'm glad it led us here. To this. Me too. We leaned into each other. The kind of kiss that felt like coming home after being lost for too long. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Messy, honest, and real. Looking back, I realized that sometimes the best relationships start in the most unexpected ways. What began as a simple favor turned into something neither of us dared to hope for. We learned to be vulnerable, to be patient, and to trust that love doesn't always come wrapped in neat packages. Now, with Jamie by my side, the future feels less scary and more like an open road. Uncertain, maybe, but full of possibility. And that, honestly, is enough. I never thought saying yes to being someone's fake boyfriend would change my life, but it did. It taught me that sometimes the best things come when you least expect them, and that love, real love, is worth every messy, beautiful second.